See, gotta figure out a way to not flash you my titties the whole time. Hi, everybody. Ooh. Okay. I think this works. I'm definitely gonna flash my titties like all the time by accident. Hello. Hi. Oh, I should put a little tag that just gonna be on here a little bit, answering a few questions and saying a few things. Oh my god, I can't even do this. Mental health and sex shit. That's the topic. That's what we talking about. That's what I'm talking about. So, hi everybody. Okay. And then, how do I do this? Oh my god, I wanna like pin this or whatever. Never lets me fucking do it. It's like, yo, I hate this shit. Oh my god. Wait. I'm so bad at this shit. Pin comment. There we go. No. So, okay, pushy customers. Let's start there, totally. So, one of the ways that I deal with pushy customers is practicing my boundaries. I think that this is like really relevant to everything. Look, I have all this paint in my hair. Really relevant to the entire conversation of like maintaining good mental health practices and sex, right? In general, whether it's in sex work and it's business, whether it is for money or pleasure or both, or by yourself, you know? And honestly, like with clients, I always notice that if you let them, they will do fucking anything, the most bizarre shit. Like, literally just like, if I don't set the boundaries straight, they'll just go the fuck off, whip it the fuck out. You know what I'm saying? So like, very much from the beginning, it's like, I don't negotiate. And there are people who do, and I come from like a place of privilege, not needing to negotiate, but I need to practice those boundaries because it goes across the board, you know? Ew, piss on me. I'm gonna have to fucking block you. You're probably, you know who you are. Done, okay. Yeah, so having really direct communication, and I think that there are playful ways to be like, honey, I do not negotiate this body, or like, you know, sometimes I do like try and like pick on them and turn it around and be like, oh my god, what if I started grabbing at you like that? You want me to grab your asshole with my fingers? No. So don't grab my asshole with your fingers. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's an important thing. And also that they're gonna come in there with expectations and feel an entitlement as like, because they're like, we're paying customers. Like, the customer's always right. That's not true in sex work. And that's not true, like, for setting boundaries. It's not like that, you know? I try and stay positive, but it's also just the way that my brain, like, pictures shit. So I'll be able to go from, like today, I was just so cranky. I don't even know why. And so I just like kind of reset what I was doing. I just like stopped and did like kind of like a jolt in the tasks and everything, and went and laid down and started listening to music. and it just kind of like rebooted, you know, where I was at. And so I took notes and everything about some things that I wanted to talk about that people asked about. So one of the questions was bringing up sex therapy with a partner, / starting sex therapy and whatnot. So depending where you are, hopefully there are sometimes like women's centers that are really good, that have like really wonderful group programming too. It can be a lot to, you know, I think that we just so much like have so much internalized shame. Yes, definitely when I'm not motivated. But so I would say that we already are socialized, most of us, to have so much internalized shame. And to take it one step at a time. I think that when I think about going into therapy, I end up building this really like expansive saga of like therapy and healing and reliving trauma, and it brings up a lot of contention for me because of my own experiences. And one thing that I always think about is no matter who the fuck you are, you've probably experienced and had like some traumatic sexual encounter experience somewhere on the spectrum, whether it was really fucking awkward or whatever, right? Made you really fucking embarrassed or got rejected or a number of different things, right? And sometimes we take for granted that we live in rape culture and that we live in an environment that is inherently really violent and is anti-sex too. And so because of that, there's not much of a narrative around pleasure. It's like you're boning, which means you're fucking and you're coming. And I don't really see like, oh, ooh, thank you. Okay, I'm such an air sign. I'm like, what the fuck was that? Did I just say? Yeah, so when bringing up with a partner, wanting to go to sex therapy, I mean, a lot of people feel called out around therapy or as if like someone's doing something wrong. And I think number one, having conversations, not just in the moment when something happens, but in between, like when things are really, really good, like when you did have some really good sex, to bring up what was good about that, like what felt good, and start to have those practices to just create positivity and more experience and practice at talking about sex. Because, like, when do we get to so freely? I try and do it all the time so that when I'm in positions where clients are taking advantage, dates are taking advantage, I can set my boundaries. You know what I mean? It just takes practice, and it takes definitely like one step at a time type of situation where it's not, you can't just see things as the outcome. And that's the same for fucking sex. It's the same for our mental health trauma. Like, sex isn't just about the orgasm either, right? Some people can't orgasm. Like, depending upon what medication I'm on, I'll get to this point where I'll be like, oh yeah, baby, I'm gonna orgasm. And then I'll be like, dun, 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 dun. Was that it? And it's like, yeah, there is like different biology in people, and also depending upon what medication we take, a lot of antidepressants fucking decrease our sex drive and shit like that. And like, health insurance covers like Viagra, but health insurance doesn't cover, nor is there anything geared towards femmes and women who, oh, I'm taking a Band-Aid off, who need help getting off or want assistance or yeah, meds have a huge impact on me and my ability to like feel sexual. And so does my anxiety, so does my PTSD. And another thing about it is that it always changes. So talking about sex in your life as a daily, weekly, as a regular practice is just in general going to make it easier to have more like difficult, sensitive, personal, or challenging conversations. You know what I mean? Like, I think that a lot of us live trying to resist binaries and abolish binaries, and one way to do that is by like decolonizing our sex. And by decolonizing our sex, I mean like not placing expectations on ourselves or our partners and having consistent communication, challenging yourself. Like sometimes like sex doesn't look like porn unless you're like really good about buying your porn, and you know what I mean. But like even just like there's so much unpredictability with it around pleasure and desire for me too, that is like I could really just like really want to stare at some pussy. Like that's what's gonna get me off. Like I need to like get in some like nasty kinky like bottom space, and that's what's gonna get me off. And so that's also what I mean about not creating a binary around sex and pleasure and like even expectation, right? So like give yourselves the space to have it not be necessarily about coming unless that's like your goal, but instead be about pleasure and what that looks like and all the fucking different ways for that to happen, whether it's like sensory deprivation or bondage or like some slow jams and a lot of lube and a pillow. You know what I mean? I just think that there's really a lot of different ways to have sex, and sex isn't just penetrative. Sex isn't just about an orgasm for all people. And so that's like really important, especially because we take for granted like invisible disabilities or invisible illnesses. So we might not know that like it's really hard for someone to get it up. But having that conversation is a whole other compartment of our like lives and brains that then when we experience things like that, we have to combat. I cannot say anything like, who could even say what regular sex is, right? Like regular for some people could be like, with my like medication, I was able to get it up once this month, you know? Or some people are just less sexual. Some people also have like different amounts of energy. And I think that's really an important thing too, is that like we all have different capabilities and different amounts of energy. Some people are really fucking high energy and like jumpity jump around all the time, like twisting and dancing and moving around and spanking and slapping and spitting and whatever. And other people have like extremely different energy levels. So you can't really set like any sort of norm or like expectation on your relationships like that, because then you could actually really just be cutting yourself off from like the unknown, right? If you're like, our relationship needs to look like this to be healthy, you are only setting yourself up for disaster and then doing that for yourself, doing that to yourself, you know? Like, I don't, I don't know. I've even like been all straight up like, I want to fuck so bad tonight. I'm going to do this, and this to you. And then an hour later, you know, and then an hour later, like not Yeah, that would be a good clarification. But I could be like all up on it, super horny. An hour later, it comes to it. I start having some crazy ass PTSD for real, and I am not in the mood, you know. And either way, having sex on the regular, that's different for every person. I know people who don't need to have sex every week. I know people who do. I know people who need to orgasm a certain amount of times to release energy or whatever. It definitely helps with my mental health, but not always. Sometimes sex can be a trigger. Sometimes performing sex can be a trigger for me too. So I don't think that there's any way to introduce any sort of like idealization of regularity, because I think that it's important to keep the space open for spontaneity. And that's part of something that people like also really get off on, as a huge fetish for sex too. Like, I would love the idea of somebody hiding in my closet who I know, you know, but me not knowing the day or the time or whatever, you know, and then just being like them jump out and tying me up in a whole bunch of ropes and whatever, like, and then like probably fucking me from behind or whatever, like, or something like that. But so that doesn't necessarily mean an orgasm either at the end. And I think that spontaneity can also be really sexy for people, and that in general you have to find out with your lovers and your sweethearts like what is each person's needs, and then assess for yourself what your needs are, and also be open to them changing all the fucking time, because they're gonna, and you're gonna learn new shit to do. Or I think for me, one thing that's nice is that when I talk about sex, when I learn about sex, it makes me feel hornier, it makes me more in the mood, as opposed to when I kind of succumb to my anxiety around it. No, that's a lot easier said than done, but I do think that instigating, that like watching my friends' porn that I buy, you know, that I fucking love, that I know will be hot, like trying to do that with a boo, to like, if I want to be having more sex, maybe help encourage the situation. Or I think also it can be really hard to not take dynamics around sex personally, you know, like someone not wanting to have sex, not taking that personally. And I think it's really, really important that we give each other and ourselves the autonomy to make decisions around sex and pleasure, just for us, not with any sort of like intent to, with really it just being about yourself. And I think that sex is one of the best ways to practice self-indulgence like that, or orgasming, or masturbation, or kink and BDSM. Like, I think that those are really key ways to engage with connecting with yourself in all those different ways. I'll spank myself. Like, you know, the other day I was like pouring alcohol on my wounds, and like, that turned me on. You know what I mean? And without like me even planning on it, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't at the time connect like, okay, I'm gonna put this alcohol on my burns, on my like scabs, and it's gonna fucking burn, and that's gonna suck, and then it's gonna kind of make me wet. Like, I just wanted to do it, and I was like, I'm into it, I'm not afraid of the pain, like, I want to feel it, I'm excited about it. And so I just think that there just are so many different levels and different ways to engage with like sexual pleasure or bodily pleasure, whether it's like things that just make you feel sensual to things that legit make you drip or really fucking hard. Like, I think it changes, and it's just a constant conversation and a constant like exploration. One reason why I love buying and watching like porn made from folks in my community is because I learn a lot from them, you know. And one reason why I want to organize having discussions like this is because I'm constantly learning and finding out new things that I find really healing. And then we'll have random discussions with people and they'll be like, yo, BDSM, when I'm having like really a lot of depression and disassociation, like that's something. Yeah, word, like, so I think moving away from binaries and rhetorics around, you know, it's a binary to think that like the desired outcome of sex is a very broad term I'm using, you know, like that the desired outcome of that is to orgasm. That's not everyone's desired outcome. Not everybody can do that in front of other people or want to or whatever. Like for a while in my life, orgasming made me feel a lot of shame because I had to do a lot of personal work to unlearn the shame that I felt after I would orgasm when I was a kid, and I would be like fantasizing about pussy and like gay shit, or I'd be looking at my own pussy to get turned on. That, and then I would come and I'd feel really, really guilty, like, please don't make me be gay. I'm like, you know, 6 years old or whatever, but I really love pussy and whatnot. So there are times when just like, you know, topping, there's like terminology too, like being stoned is really complex terminology that can mean different things, but one of the things that it's meant for me in the past is that my partner does not get naked at all. I do. And that's a really like fun and exciting dynamic too. And so I would just say like, be in touch with yourself, like look at your fucking body, do like the awkward things of like, you know, like, I know my sex workers all know this, like spreading your asshole, whatever, but like touch yourself with lube, like put a little finger in there, experiment, and all of that good shit, you know? You know, I think that some people could view sex as needle play and as bondage and as different kinds of like kink. And that's, again, something for each person to negotiate and set their boundaries with and know their boundaries, like with friends or with each individual person, like really taking it step by step, like with this person, this is my boundaries, so on and so forth. Like we have to do this in maybe not physical ways, but intimate ways with our friends, with our parents, with our children, with, you know what I mean? And so it's just about like expanding the practice that we already have into a context that we're socialized to feel really fucking embarrassed about. Or like, I mean, I'm a big blusher. My voice gets a lot more quiet sometimes when I talk about sex. Or like, I don't know, I'm also not socialized to necessarily ask for what I want. So I think femmes and women, like, that's a whole other like aspect of struggle that we work through with, thank you, hello. You know, it's just a different aspect to think about it. So one is like, oh yeah, another question that was really fun was, I think it was just personal too, like how do you like to get off without using toys? And for me, that's lube, it's peeing. Like if I'm gonna masturbate by myself, I like to either do it spread out on like in the tub or in the shower on the toilet, and I like to pee as I come, and like I love the warm sensation and whatever. Also, looking at my own pussy turns me on. definitely. And that, but it's also like, then what are your boundaries in general? Like, how much are you like negating your own desires to alleviate an assumed, rightfully or not, reaction sometimes? But also, if like you're with somebody where you can't be who you are, like, that's not gonna work. But if you're with someone where you're just like internalizing a lot of shame and just like feeling a lot of shame and trying to process that, like, the thing is that I learned the hard way is that I can try and be what other people want me to be, have the sex that other people want me to have, or the kinks and the fetishes that are like deemed appropriate or not taboo enough, taboo just enough, right? It's all like fucking whitewashing that shit. It's so fucked up. And there's really like significant cultural and historical practices of BDSM and kink being like community building things. That's totally dope. And same, like I find it difficult too, like, and some partners it's easier than with others. You know what I mean? Like some people, I'm like, I don't think that they'd ever be into that. And then I just make assumptions and kind of get spirally in my head. You know what I mean? Yes, I will definitely save this. But it's like, at the end of the day, I think that sex is a lot about communication and verbal or nonverbal. I mean, that just somebody asked me that question, like, what's my favorite way without toys? I don't always need toys. I love clitoral stimulation. That shit is like, and I love multiple orgasms and whatnot. But another thing I would like to say around mental health and sex is doing our own work to be able to be present when we're there so that we can be accountable if we're engaging in kink and BDSM. Don't ever, there are no experts when it comes to sex and pleasure and love and kink, but there are, there's facts, right? There's information, there's educating yourself. You can be really educated. But I don't really believe in ever being I don't think it's possible to ever just master something or, it's just experiences and the ways that I've stumbled upon things that I was like, wait, this isn't sexual. Oh my God, I have a shoe fetish. And that's why I have 90 pairs of shoes, right? So at first I didn't really connect it, but then I was like, I wear heels inside all the time. I love staring at heels. I love touching them. I like looking at the way feet look in them. Then I'm like, no, I'm not gonna come thinking about that, but I like that, and I like heels and sex. You know what I mean? There are all these different ways that we find sensuality and pleasure in the everyday, and I think trying to destigmatize those reactions that we naturally have is really important, and just an integral process of abolishing a binary that exists in sex and pleasure, and mental health, and for me, kink and as a cutter, needle play, scalpel play, blood play has all been life-saving. I've been able to formulate really safe and intentional practices. That's right, they hairy, just for you. Now pay me, my PayPal's in my link. That when I engage in those practices of needle play specifically, or bloodletting, I don't have the desire to self-harm when I'm anxious, having PTSD, a panic attack, so on, so on, so on. You know. And that also to me is a very intimate practice with somebody. And I mean, it's penetration too. Oh, if people want to get all binary about it, get all heterosexist and shit, all cis-sexist and shit. Whatever, I'm just being cheeky as shit, but you know, I just think that, don't ask me photos like that. Oh my God, that's so inappropriate. Are you hairy down there? Don't ask people about their bodies. If they want to tell you about them or show them to you, they fucking will. Trust. It'll happen. This whole show something, yo, that's how you get blocked for life. Like, you are just a criminal of my energy. You're a vampire. And this is the exact, this is the exact kind of behavior that makes it really difficult for femmes and women and queer folks and trans folks to get together and talk about sex publicly. You know what I mean? Like, you can pay me to look at me, but this game costs money. Or let people just naturally express themselves how it makes them feel best, and then the images or things that you receive will be consensual and you won't be a predator. You know, nobody wants to be a predator, but we do live in rape, in like serious rape culture. Ooh, I have some white wine here. I would love to answer any questions about BDSM and being a cutter or having like self-harm cravings and things like that, or any questions that anybody has. I'm super down to answer them or try my best to tell you what I think or how I like process that shit. Okay, I don't know what that means. But anyway, when I'm also another thing that I've learned that when I'm having panic attacks, when I'm like in crisis even, and or going through like a medication withdrawal, and I have like these like feelings inside my body, like basically I'm gonna motherfucking explode and I need to cut off all of my flesh to let out the demon things that are inside eating me slowly and destroying me. Now that's how I feel in the moment. But one thing that has really helped is getting spanked, and like setting up with my wife like the exact ways that it's okay, and for her to ask me like at what times and at other times to just like climb the fuck on top of me because I need you like a weighted blanket or something. You know what I mean? Or like I need like being spanked really, really helps over and over again in the same spot instead of cutting. If I'm like, I don't want to cut, actually. Like I don't want to like have any more scars or have like healing wounds for this period of time. It happens at times, and other times I don't mind having them. But it's all about making those decisions every day for yourself and claiming that as something that you're doing that is actually really powerful, strong, and is only going to invite healthier and like more pleasurable experiences into your life and whatnot. Like, I don't know. I'm the type of person where like I lay in bed if I'm watching a show or something. Like I'm always kind of touching myself. Not everybody's like that. Not everybody like has the same inclinations. So we gotta be really um, like like insistent with ourselves to not assume other people's desires or expectations. Um, or boundaries. Like, they're gonna change all the time. And there are nonverbal ways of doing it. Some people are like, actually, a boundary of mine is like no blue or white medical gloves, like latex gloves. They need to be, like, for me, like, I gotta be in a really certain mindset to use gloves that they have at hospitals and medical centers. Because other times they can be really traumatizing and not sexy. But it's all about kind of just as much as you can talking about it with people that you trust, building those circles. You know, I want to keep doing things like this and answering questions, and it helps me like dig out some treasure too with all y'all's like curiosity and my own, where we're like, I don't know, finding these like simple answers that we can all access in our own way, like in very different ways, you know what I mean? But all connect to it, all have it resonate, you know? Oh, I love you, baby. Hi. Um, what was I just gonna say? I got distracted. I keep letting my blunt go out because I talk too much. Thank you. I actually got my lashes done because, well, one, because I love it and I'm just like a brat like that. Like, you know, I love getting my nails done, and I got my eyelashes done. I love it. So much easier than putting on falsies. And the like amount money wise isn't so different, honestly. And so thank you. They're not mine. But I'm like so down to be like, not mine, and I love it. Mine, not mine. Mine, not mine. You know? One thing that's really important is whatever I'm saying is just based off of my own experience and my own work. Everybody's got to find out what's best for them, what resonates with them, or you know, if something that I've said or whatever like sparks any questions, I would love to talk about them and continue this dialogue. I'm gonna put this up on YouTube, and I'll do a follow-up video answering some more questions and elaborating on a few things that I didn't on here. I love talking about sex. I just don't. Anyway, I love talking about sex. I don't always find it easy. Like, even now, I'm like, like, I don't want to say something stupid about sex, but what the fuck ever? What the fuck ever does that even fucking mean? Like, it's the same way as, like, me being like, I don't want to be awkward during sex. Like, I am awkward during sex. Like, sex is awkward. Sometimes, like, it slips out. You don't know it slips out. You go, like, it is very deep and multi-layered. And so many people tell me that about Amy Winehouse, and that is the biggest compliment ever. She is like so gorgeous, so thank you. I'm constantly finding new ways, and you know, I was with somebody who would never, ever like let me be on top or let me even be like vaguely assertive. around sex. Like, I wasn't allowed to initiate it, anything like that. And that really fucking stuck with me. And still, sometimes it resonates with me. Like, it was only a few years ago, you know? It left me feeling really embarrassed and, like, as if I wasn't in touch, or, like, we weren't, like, you know, connected, because I had these desires to, like, be more assertive and, like, be more toppy and whatever, and that was, like, not what they wanted. And so sometimes your desires don't align, and that's also definitely okay. And I think that there's, like, you know, I have certain friends who are, like, super knowledgeable on needle stuff. So, like, we do that when we hang out, and it's fucking therapy and amazing and fun and intimate, but isn't sex to me. You know, but is enjoyable and whatever. Yo, totally. I always laugh a little bit during sex, or, like, sometimes your mind just, like, thinks of, like, some crazy ass shit, or, like, I really like doggy style shit, and I really like that noise, like, that, like, queefy noise when your pussy is just, like, exhaling, like, damn, that bitch took so much. My innie took so much just now. It's got to take a big, deep breath. I think that shit is so hilarious, but also sexy. And, like, I don't know. I call it pussy breath. And yeah, I think that, like, laughing and being your full self during sex is really intimate and, like, beautiful. And that comes across in so many different ways for people, whether it's, like, I don't know, private for people or public for people even. Pussy breath. It's the coveted pussy breath. Everyone has their own fragrance, their own, you know? Oh my god, I love the slapping sound. Don't even get me started on the slapping sound. Don't even get me fucking started on the slapping sound. Love that. I love strap-ons with balls on them too, for that exact reason. Probably part of the reason why I love, like, spanking titties. But, you know, everyone's got their own things, and it's important to just, like, take your time too. There's no rush when it comes to, like, building intimacy with somebody and with yourself. Like, you can't set yourself up. You can have expectations, you can have goals, you know, and stuff like that, but you can't also punish yourself for things not happening the way that you see them in general. So that just, like, has to boil down to being conscious about that in times that we're being really vulnerable. Yeah. Seriously, sometimes it's just, like, sometimes you need a minute too. Like, sometimes I need to break for water. Sometimes I am so fucking thirsty and have dry mouth, or, like, you gotta pee before you come, you know, stuff like that. Or you just, like, whatever. I just opened this. I didn't drink it all, don't worry. Although I'm sure people will say. But sex is supposed to be fun. I mean, unless it's supposed to be not fun. Consensually, if you know what I mean. totally trying new things, like challenging your boundaries with people that you trust, or even just by yourself. Like, yo, I started seriously with like nipple clamps that I stole from Spencer's, being like, okay, like by myself. Nobody fucking knew. Nobody could fucking know. Like, there was a long time where it was super taboo to be like a non-binary femme, like pro-dom who's like 20 years old. Like, that shit was isolated. Like, it's wild walking into spaces, but I did push myself to learn a lot of the history that also taught me a lot about what I could do now. Like, you learn about the history with some of that shit, like, ew, sicko, get out. You, like, learning histories about that shit and learning about people's experiences that aren't your own is an interesting way to sometimes be surprised at what you learn about yourself, And, I don't know how long this has been. And honestly, the bath is starting to get a little cold. I have to turn it on more. I'm really excited that everybody came through, though. This was really nice, and I hope to figure out ways to integrate a more succinct dialogue between everyone. I've been trying to like work on some things and whatever. Yeah, definitely. Even like vintage porn and stuff, and being like, that is erotic and I am into it. Like, I don't know. It's nice to just also realize like the multiple things that you're into. And like, I don't know, support independent and like rad porn makers and sex workers, that's definitely a way to learn. And I learn a lot from everybody who has this conversation with me always, and just being like, yeah, fuck yeah, like, learning histories of BDSM and kink, igniting desires that I didn't even know were capable of, like, manifesting. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa. You'll do that with me? I'll do that right now. And then you can integrate like ways that are consensual and build positive sexual experiences, which then at one point the positive ones are going to outweigh the negative ones, and it's going to become more like second nature to have the conversations, to be doing the education for yourself. And like, for me, like, there's no rush ever. Like, even when you're in the middle of doing it, it never has to look a certain way, right? That's like a golden rule for mental health shit. And like our ability to survive and feel capable in surviving. Like, yeah. We're like, I don't even know. Now I'm just getting stoned and stupid. But the bath is getting hot. The thing also, always trust your instincts. That's another thing. And that means with pleasure or not, you know. Trust that. And for me, I like to set a boundary very clearly and intentionally. And if that gets crossed, right, I can acknowledge that's one boundary crossed. I set another boundary, right? These are small boundaries. And this is sometimes ways that I have to kind of process people entering my life or experiences with people. If they then cross that boundary, right, I communicate that they crossed the boundary and I set another boundary. If that boundary is also crossed, that means even more significantly, and that's just my personal little boundary, like hop, skip, and jump that I do. But, and it should, you know, it can be different for everybody, but I do that to kind of be like, okay, after they've done that twice, I can't be in A, B, C, D situations with them. I don't feel comfortable, you know, engaging with these things. Like, this will never happen. Like, if you don't get my pronouns right, I'll never, ever, ever, ever have sex with you, ever. You know what I mean? So it's like, everybody's got their boundaries. That's one of mine. That wasn't always true. Yeah. Anyway, no, I'm just gonna finish this door. And of course, you know, I got my candle and my crystal and my fuzzy pen in case I had to write anything down, you know, in my notebook. Because I take notes because I care. I care so much about y'all. Like, the shit that I've learned through this platform, being able to connect and whatever, and like, even if just something that I say resonates and helps or like assists one person in like a growing process, that's enough for me. That's like really special, and I take that on as a really big honor, you know? Even if I'm smoking a blunt in the tub. No. With no fucking music. Another thing I love is the way the boobs feel rubbing on my back. Like, when you're like grinding and stuff from behind. I love the way boobs feel on your back. This is a gay conversation, just so everyone knows. You better respect, or you'll be fucking checked the fuck out of here. Okay, thank you. See, why did I say thank you in such a delicate voice? Like, why did I even thank people for being respectful in ways that people should just be respectful? See, and then I catch myself doing it too. It's so ingrained. So, this is why I like to talk about it out loud. It helps me personally to talk about it and just like, be like, kind of build maps and webs with other people. finally have a bathtub. It's fucking insane. I'm so lucky. What is everybody doing tonight? It's fucking the Jewish New Year. I hope you all pop it off right. Set some intentions. Try something new. Try something new. Try something you've always wanted to try. You know? Get that gag ball and just like see what it's like. You know? Shit like that. Oh, I'm taking off a Band-Aid right now. I mean, it's coming off. Wow. These Band-Aids are magic. I'm like, so shocked. Wow. That's so much more healed. This is magic. These Band-Aids are magic. Yo, I wish they would sponsor me though. Hi. Ooh. Anyway, the sun is setting here, and as sundown comes, it's time for me to do a few rituals. Shana Tova, everybody. Fuck yeah, I'm ready for it. I can't wait to show y'all what I did today too. It was fucking crazy. Very productive. Good. Set your intentions. Try something new. And thank you for doing this with me. This is gonna shut off in 30 seconds. And my hands are really wet, so, and the other one is the blunt, so I can't just exit it. So I'm just gonna finish taking off my Band-Aid and say bye like this. And there's gonna be a really boring segment of you looking at my back. And I apologize. But I don't know, I'm just such a nerd. Anyway, thank you. Oh yeah, check out my YouTube for more. Duh.